Darris, you ever pay attention to how a business that is kind of running and you see these, preconceived and like pre-planned ways that they're locked into following a certain footstep, and you're like, there's something wrong with this algorithm here, and you just can't, you just, without hurting that person's feeling, you're like, the algorithm that is wrong is you as the business owner.
I think we see that all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think with that, let's dive into today's topic.
And here we are again, another episode of BizMeds, your hosts. My name is Saad.
And my name is Darris, and we're here to give you the minimum effective dose to scale your business and not get caught in the traps that are everywhere. And this is from, being able to scale a business $30 million in under 18 months, having hundreds and hundreds of employees, and going through and making through all the mistakes you could possibly make along the way. And so we're here to help you not do that and give you enough to scale faster than you thought possible.
Yeah.
So let's talk about these algorithms, because I think, like when you say algorithm, my mind immediately goes to like Instagram or Facebook, social media, right? Yeah. But I think there's a lot of different algorithms out there that we need to be aware of, and what they're doing, what their impact is, and what is the intent behind them? Yeah. Have they been set up with intention, or have they just been kind of like something that's grown organically and never really done anything with?
Yeah. So I want to give a little bit of background, like how we came up with this topic for today. A couple of friends of ours were having a conversation about their businesses and how the business they are running and the ideas they've been seeing around online, around like whatever they search is like curated for their business. And this kind of feeds back to like how we talked about 75 Hard versus Atomic Habits.
Right.
So it's different perspectives. And same thing with this conversation that we picked up was, one guy is talking about like, hey, this is the right way. This is the only way. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm being fed on my algorithm. And this is what I'm going to do in my business. While the other guy has the complete opposite mentality around that. And, seeing it is like, well, they're not both perfect. They both have aspects that are really, really good, but they also have aspects that are really, really wrong. Right. And based on what you are seeing and which side of the algorithm you are for your business, you are taking those things in and you're just copy pasting and applying into your own business, just because you're subconsciously feeding your mind that like, hey, for my business to be successful, I need to be on these tracks.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that really comes to mind with that is the affirmation bias, right? We have these narratives that continually reinforce this belief system that we already have. And in that, I think what a lot of people don't do is they don't question where those beliefs come from. Yeah. And that's an issue, because if you don't, I actually really like this, and maybe I'm proving the point, but Alex Hormozy talks about, he's like, if you can't justify or explain your beliefs, then they're someone else's.
Yep.
And so that's why I tend to align myself more along that, where is if you don't really know where your belief set came from, then you borrowed it from someone else. And that's one part of it. The second part is, okay, then you should be questioning it. Why do I believe this? Like, what has led me to believe this? And do I need to still keep believing this? Or has it become a limiting belief?
Yeah.
So a lot of those things that we can, we'll pick on again, social media and the algorithms, right? Some of those things can influence how we believe about something, inadvertently, like hold us hostage to a belief set that is untrue or is not true in all cases, but we apply it like it is, like you were saying.
Yeah, it's the gospel. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And the biggest issue I see in all that is the lack of ability to question those beliefs. And they become more and more polarizing. Yeah. Right? It's like, oh, you have these two camps. You have the 75 Hard. That's the only way, you got to be rock hard.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to attack life. And then you have the other people who's like, well, no, it's small changes over a longer period of time, create this massive adjustment and improvement. And it's like, well, guess what, guys? It's a bit of both. It depends on the context.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And I think that's, again, perfectly said, because like in the businesses, you see it happen all the time where certain leaders that are very, very driven, very like, I can make that change today, and I will absolutely go ahead and like debunk my entire history of how I've been previously running the business. Today, I'm going to make that change. And there are people absolutely that see a lot of success in it.
Yeah.
But then the reality is, like, for example, let's take a random, business, McDonald's. It's not sponsored by them or anything.
Thank God.
Yeah. But if they came out and they just completely changed their business model from burgers to Subway style like sandwiches, everyone's gonna be like, whoa, what the heck? And it's too aggressive of a change that people will not be able to adapt. But if they start sliding in a little bit of a smaller change, like Atomic Habits, over the, next 5 years, that's when, it's a bit more palatable and you're not going to scare people away.
Yeah. I mean, you give people that time to adjust. I think part of that is really just know, like, when we talk about it from a business perspective, it's, and that whole kind of, right way, wrong way. And listen, you brought up McDonald's. I'll pick on like Walmart, right? Yeah. Walmart is all about low cost, high volume.
Yeah.
So you can run a very successful business on low cost, low price, high volume.
Yeah.
Right. You can also run a business that is focused on value and high prices, lower volume. And it's just two different sides. So both models exist at a multi-billion-dollar level, right? So it's not one is right and one is wrong. It's which one is right for the game you're playing, right? Yep. So, I mean, I like to subscribe to the school of thought. I think it was Dan Kennedy said, there's no strategic benefit to being the second lowest priced competitor out there, or something to that effect, right? Yeah. Which I agree, because if you're going to be Walmart, You're going to capture the market, and you're going to be exceptionally well at that. And we know that there's large companies that their leadership structure is very centralized command, and there's one very centralized decision making at the very top from the CEO, and none of the other, even though you're VP or whatever you are, those decisions don't really they have a very small decision ability, right? Everything else is made by the CEO. And we're talking like a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have other companies that have, their decision levels are dispersed, and they have more autonomy to make these decisions and things like that. But they're both multi-billion-dollar companies. They both do extremely well. Both models work. Leadership style, maybe, and here's the thing. It's like, and you create these environments, and people that naturally want to work in that environment, attracted to that environment. You can disagree and say, well, it's not the most efficient. Well, I mean, they're still very profitable. People still, whether or not they enjoy, they still show up and they thrive for all intents and purposes in that environment. So are you to say that that's wrong? It might be wrong for you, but that's where I think that what we started off talking about this podcast was, where we just get into this blinders of right versus wrong. We live in this dichotomy thinking, right? It's black or white, left or right, right and wrong. And we lose the gradations, right? That
they both work in tandem. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a whole middle ground. If you're talking about black and white, there's a whole middle ground of gray that exists, right? It's like, well, I'm not skinny. Well, it doesn't mean you're fat.
Yeah.
Right. You might be just not as skinny as someone who's obese.
Yeah.
Right. Or someone who's like even more skinny, but then like there's a whole scale in between there that people lose out, because we flip to this dichotomy. And again, talk about like thinking patterns that hold you captive, right? Belief patterns that keep you captive. That's the kind of thinking patterns, that fixed mindset. And, inevitably a lot of the things we come back to mindset and how you perceive the world. And if you if you don't have the ability to learn or appreciate that other people can have other perspectives, and that by listening to those other perspectives, you can actually enrich, because things exist outside of the area that you're not willing to acknowledge, then how do you grow?
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, so again, this is going to sound like a shameless plug, but this is kind of where, you said this perfectly. This is where you need that unbiased, unfiltered person kind of coaching you through those conversations, right? This is why most senior leaders or people that are very high up in companies have a board that they consult with, or like they have, key advisors that they speak with that help them identify like the opportunities, or even like take a moment to like just digest it, because sometimes you're just so close to the situation where you don't even realize that you are inadvertently creating a bias to one or the other side,
Yeah.
just because something might have happened that might have triggered you, or pushed you into a decision that black is the right answer, white I just don't like, or like vice versa, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those topics. I mean, we can very easily spread out to a lot of different things, but most importantly, like we talk about the algorithms. And so with that, we have external algorithms. We have things that exist, right? So we have things that are always influencing us continually. So whether it's social media, whether it's television, the books we read, like all these are inputs into kind of our decision matrix or the way we perceive the world, right? How we were raised. All of these are inputs into the algorithm, our belief system, as it were, that go along. Well, guess what also happens in your business is you inadvertently have an algorithm that exists inside your business. And if you're not intentional about it, and you're very, you don't really realize it's happening,
excuse me,
then that algorithm could be without any, ill will, just doing you a lot more harm than good, because you don't really realize it exists, and you're not taking an active participation in curating, how your company grows or the belief system. We talked about core values, right? So you want to talk about like a really great way to start kind of reshaping the algorithm that exists in your business is getting some really core values and really clear thinking on who you are.
Excuse me.
Oh, good, man.
I don't know what's going on. I just immediately got very, very dry. Like I used all of my thoughts in that last one. But yeah, you're right. Like it's driving that your. It is, you are right. Like it has to be the core values. Like you have to define those core values and then kind of stick to them, because then at least you have a compass that regardless of if the decision is black and white, right or left, like doesn't matter. It's bringing you back to the middle, to where you need to be. So those, to your point, like that core values sit right in the middle between the decisions. Yeah. So,
and to be fair, like I think it's, when you have that for inside your business, I think you as a leader also need to be looking at what type of algorithm you're running by. Mm-hmm. And so for me, what I do is, I have people I know and friends that exist on both sides of the political spectrum, right? And a lot of them like to make posts on both sides. And what I try not to do is more heavily favor one than the other.
Yeah.
And I may not agree with some things, but what I don't do is just be like, oh, block or unfriend or unfollow.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm very well aware that if I do that, I'm now creating an echo chamber of things that only reinforce, and I'm not getting the additional perspective that's important.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think if everyone, or if people start to do that a little bit more and appreciate that there is another perspective, it doesn't mean you have to take that on, but being willing to understand the other perspective goes a long way. Because what I found is that, even friends and I, we may differ on our political views, but on probably 95 to 97% of the issues, we actually agree on all of the core issues.
Yeah.
Right. We disagree on maybe how you would address some of those issues. And that's what it is. That's what it comes down to. And we've lost sight of that. And so the world becomes more polarizing, right? It's like you'll have one event and it's fed to you two very different ways, depending on all the other stuff you engage with. And that has the potential to kind of reinforce both sides of that and create this massive gap in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. where we misunderstand each other.
Yeah.
We talked, offline, we talked about crucial conversations, why we value that so much in that framework for discussing things or having high stakes conversations, is because one of the crucial steps in there is to put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, it is. Perspectives are very, very important. So,
where else do you want to go?
I think this is pretty much all I had. I didn't want to drag this out longer than we needed to. So I'm pretty happy with some of the things that we've talked about. Is there anything else that was on your mind that you wanted to wrap up on before we move on?
Well, I think it's, I think we talked a lot about the social media side of that, but it's more talking about algorithms in general.
Yeah.
And being careful because all algorithms are a set of inputs and then, events and weightings and then outputs. And really, you have to be really careful of with those inputs you're letting in, and then what weighting you're attaching to those to impact your decision making.
Yeah.
And that comes in at all different levels. It comes in, you as a leader. So if you're not putting any weight into anything like core values or anything like that, okay, well then you can't be really upset if your business doesn't feel like it's really like it's attracting the quality talent that you want. Yeah. Or nor is it operating the way that you want it to be, because you've not weighted the proper weight to those inputs to help govern how it's run. And then on a personal level, where if you are not taking stock of your beliefs and you're inadvertently attaching way more weight to things that you don't even really know why you believe a thing, that's also going to impact your ability to do that. Right. And then, and then of course we have social media, but we also have AI and things like that. Right. So we talked about affirmation bias from AI. It doesn't know you. It does not live inside your head. All it does is, guess what? It's a prediction model. That's all it is. And it's only as good as the ability and the context that you give it. It doesn't know everything. Yeah. And of course you have to always fact check it. You have to be vigilant. You can't, if your opinion is that it's always right, well then that's what you're going to end up with. Right. And you will be wrong. So, and really comes down to like a lot of the algorithms that we allow to impact us are based on how our mindset is initially set up. Are we a growth mindset, a learner mindset, or are we fixed or judger mindset where, we just shut things off? Or do we want to learn more? Are we willing to entertain that there is more going on than we maybe like to believe, or maybe makes us uncomfortable, and that's okay.
Exactly. Yeah. We were obviously talking about this in one of our AI episodes, that like it is designed to reinforce your perspective, and it will give you kudos on like, oh yeah, this is a great idea. Like,
we're calling out ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Like the worst in my experience. Yeah. The worst offender.
They're all starting to get a little better. Yeah. But it's getting to a point where, again, people like us, because we're so critical on those things, we'll take a moment and be like, okay, you know what? Something's not adding up over here. But the average person, that margin is getting even smaller and smaller, because I've had conversations with a few people. They're like, yeah, this is what it told me. This is it. And I was like, whoa, hold on. Like, the question you asked it could lead it to 3 different avenues, and one of them is like super outdated information.
I loaded this into this conversation ChatGPT, and as a therapist, it said this. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I mean, that would be one input. I would be looking at that from multiple angles.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And being very careful. So I think it's that whole, I think algorithm was a really good understanding of like, it's way more than just what you get fed on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube or Facebook. There's a lot more to the idea of algorithm, right? It's the inputs and the weighting you attach to those inputs that drive decisions and your outputs.
Exactly.
All right. So with that, everyone, we're your neuroscience business coaches. My name is Darris.
And I'm Saad.
And we hopefully gave you the minimum effective dose today around algorithms. And be careful of which algorithm you're allowing to impact your life, your business, your relationships, all things. And there is tremendous strength in knowing that these things do exist, but more importantly, you have the ability to make those changes, right? You can impact those algorithms at every level. Question your beliefs. Just because someone says the sky is blue doesn't mean it's blue. Question it. That's in all things, right? And don't take our word for it. Question everything that we say. Hold us just as accountable. Most people won't say that, but we are, we're not infallible. We're not perfect human beings by any stretch of the imagination. And what we're trying to do is wade through all the garbage and help you along. So with that, thank you for joining us. If you just joined us, thank you. Welcome to BizMeds. If you've been with us since the very beginning, thank you. Saad's mom, love you. Mom, love you. Thank you to everyone. And remember, we have our new escape velocity constraint breaker tool coming out very soon. Again, we've said that for a little, but this is the price of making sure something is great before we just release it. And we've added some additional things on there to make it even better because it just wasn't good enough. So with that, thank you. Remember, you're just one day away from the life you've always dreamed about. We're going to see you in the next episode.